Welcome to Legal 123s with ByrdAdatto. Legal issues simplified through real client stories and real-world experiences. Creating simplicity in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to another episode of the Legal 123s with ByrdAdatto. I'm your host, ByrdAdatto, with my co-host, Michael Byrd.
Yes, as we get ready to close out season 15, we have another live show in Dallas, Texas at Royal Oaks Country Club.
Yes, it's awesome. I think we have over 300 people again here, so it's pretty amazing. And this room only holds 50 people, for those who can't tell. It's pretty cool. But Michael, I'm really excited, having this great live audience again. We have amazing guests today. But, most shows, what I do is I kind of quiz you. But today, instead of quizzing you, I think I'm going to bring our audience into it. But before we do, tell them what their theme of today's show is.
So, audience, our theme this season is starting a business. And as we've discussed before, starting a business is only one of 4 seasons. As a reminder, the 4 seasons are the building season, so starting a business, the operating season, running a business, the scaling season, so think of growing a business, and then the buying and selling season. This podcast season, we have been living in the building season.
Yes, and today's show, we're going to divert a little bit. We're not going to be focused so much on building a business. We're actually focusing on building a better human being. And before we bring in today's great guest, Michael, I think we have some fun facts we're going to go through.
Well, that's fine, but Brad, if we're going to be learning about building a better human being, I want you to pay attention this time, okay? I'm not saying you can use some personal growth, but I'm also not saying you can use some personal growth.
So you're saying there's a chance?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Michael. So like I said, normally at this point, I'll throw some random questions at you. But because I have this live studio audience of over 300 people, I thought we could ask the audience some tough questions. So audience members, when I ask this question, you're allowed to shout out your answers. There are no wrong answers except for the right one that is correct. So audience members, how many continents are there on Earth?
We hear 7 pretty much unanimously.
Wow. Okay, Michael. The correct answer is 6 or 7 or 8.
Now, Brad, are you considering Louisiana a separate continent?
No, definitely not. That's totally a third world country. Most Americans are taught 7 continents. So you all yelling that out is correct. Michael, since you're so intelligent, can you name the 7, though?
I can, and I've got it written down right in front of me.
So
it's amazing.
Yes.
Asia, Africa, North America, South America, Antarctica, Europe, and Australia.
Okay.
Is that good?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, good. But why, Brad, do people say there's 6 or 8?
So it really depends on where you're from. So sometimes Europe and Asia are combined to be called Eurasia. So that makes it 6. And other places, they argue India is its own separate continent, which would make it 8. I personally don't have a strong continent opinion. I'm sure there's some really good debates and blogs out there. Maybe you've written some of them. But speaking of continents, how many have you visited?
So is this is this question you're asking, if it were a competition, would I win if I had less or more than you?
It's not a competition, but I know I have more, so don't worry about it.
So you're saying more would
better.
win?
Oh,
Okay. All right. Well, then I get to add a rule since you made that rule. And so you get to pair yourself with every other Adatto in this room for your answer.
Okay.
And I get to pair myself with every other Birdman in this room for my answer. In that case, all of them.
Okay.
Personally, I've only been to 2.
Okay. Where have you been?
I have been to North America, where I'm sitting right now.
Okay, congratulations.
Yeah, I've been there a lot, too. It's really cool. And then I've also been to Africa a few times.
Okay, all right, that's pretty good.
I'm adding Europe this summer.
Okay, well, that doesn't count yet then.
Okay.
I have been to 4, so just like you, I've actually hung out in this North America place a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
I did go to Africa for a moment of time. I went to South America for a moment of time. And then, unlike you, I actually have been to Europe. So, Therefore, I'm winning.
Okay, well, you're winning at geography, Brad. Way to go.
Yes, thank you.
I'm sure you're really proud.
I'm so proud.
Why are you geeking out on geography right now?
Okay, so today we do have somebody who has actually visited all 7 continents, but he didn't just visit it. He decided to do some crazy, I won't say ass stuff because that would be cursing, while he was there to really figure out how fit of a human he and others were doing some really extreme stuff and stunts on each continent.
Well, I have the privilege of introducing our guest, Ryan Birdman Parrott, who has been to all 7 continents. A little on Birdman's bio. He's a former Navy SEAL and founder of 2 nonprofit organizations that benefit veterans and first responders, Sons of the Flag and Bird's Eye View Project. ByrdAdatto has been a supporter and partner with both of these nonprofits. Birdman enlisted in the Navy after watching the Twin Towers collapse on 9/11 and served 8 years as a U.S. Navy SEAL attached to SEAL Team 7. He completed 3 combat tours to Iraq before being assigned to Advanced Training Command as an instructor. While serving in Iraq, Birdman was riding atop a Humvee, manning the gun turret in enemy territory when his vehicle was hit by a IED, causing a detonation and throwing him from the Humvee. I'm sure he can expound and say, I have heard him expound and say this in a really powerful way. But he had, from this, birthed a lot of his passion for his nonprofits. He regained his composure with his hands and face burned and witnessed his fellow team members suffer devastating burns and blast injuries. His entire team survived their injuries and went back to operating. So Birdman established Sons of the Flag to help veteran and first responder burn survivors and their families find the help and medical attention they truly deserve. He's also the founder of the Bird's Eye View Project, addressing the extreme needs of veterans and first responders through extreme sports. Finally, he has founded the Human Performance Project, which we'll be talking about today. Did I do a good job?
You're solid.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you, brother.
All
Thank
right.
you both.
Well, Birdman, now that you have had a chance to visit all 7 continents, which one was your favorite and why?
America, always. Trick questions already.
How about not America?
Not America, Antarctica, by far. Yeah, I love England. I love London. It's one of my favorite places in the world. Africa's beautiful. They're all beautiful. They all have a different everything. But there's something about putting your feet on ice that actually has land underneath it and seeing it come out into crescent in the mountains. It takes your breath away. There's nothing like Antarctica. It's just giant, vast nothingness, untouched. And yeah, it's pretty gnarly and it can get pretty dangerous pretty quick. And it can get like negative 70, negative 80 degrees Fahrenheit in the winter. So not habitable. Pretty bad.
All right. Well, Birdman, this season we've been focusing on starting a business as we kind of led the conversation. And as a serial entrepreneur and founder of multiple nonprofits, we would love to just hear some of your thoughts. So when someone tells you they want to start a business, what's the first thing you tell them?
Why? Like, I always want to know the why. That's the most important thing, because that's going to show me if you've got the drive for it or if it's just some kind of novelty idea. You can see the passion and the fire in their eyes. They're going to figure it out, and they're going to die trying. And that's how I lead when I run my companies or work towards establishing one. So why is number one, and why is the purpose anyway for all of us? It's always about why.
You're not trying to talk them out of it, you're trying to say?
Depends. Depends on what comes back out of their mouth. If a lot of people have said they want to start nonprofits, and I'll ask the why, and they'll get the understanding of what they're doing, and I'll say, this is great. Have you heard about X, Y, and Z? I've been in the nonprofit space for a long time, and there's a lot of redundancy. So instead of creating something, help the organization tweak it, add that into their mix, help them. So we don't need as many nonprofits. We just need everybody to come together and figure this out together. So I would stop people in their tracks if I saw a real flaw like that, but that's in that particular sector, because if somebody said, I want to be a lawyer, and I asked them why, I've got nothing for them. Like, well, let me go watch Suits, and then I'll come back to you, and we're good to go.
Well, tell me, I'm curious, you've been through this a few times. What's kind of been the most surprising thing you've learned about starting a business? Like, what's that been like for you?
Identifying my talents. That's been the hardest thing, or the real eye-opening thing for me, is identifying my talents to make sure that I'm in the right place, in the position, in the company that I want to create. So I could say to myself that I'm founding it, so I'm the CEO naturally. But for me, it could be okay to be the creator of the company and maybe be the COO because I'm better suited for that. It doesn't matter because at the end of the day, if you have a mission and you want to make it successful, then you put people in the right place to make it successful. So talent is really unique. You have to look for special talent. And that's exactly what I do. I've been very blessed, though. I've served with unbelievable humans, and I've got incredible friends where there's a pool of talent just waiting. So that's that. But for me, it's identifying within myself what my talents are that can bring forth to the job to make it successful.
Well, that's a perfect lead into these unbelievable humans that you get to work with or have worked with. And I'd love for you to spend some time talking to the audience about, at a high level, as to what is and why, or let's start with what is the Human Performance Project?
So, that's a question. You're good. Yeah. You're good. So
don't egg them on.
I've got more for you.
So this started in 2019, January 2nd, 2019. I got a phone call. I believe they mentioned that I was a sniper. That was one of my primary jobs in the community. And Navy SEALs are gunfighters. You know, a lot of people think that we do everything. We do professional mixed martial arts and all that stuff. A lot of guys do on the side, but that's not our sole focus. Our sole focus is to kill bad guys. And so we are gunfighters. So the idea for me is if I'm going to be a gunfighter, can I be a better shooter? And the only way to do that is to become a sniper, to learn everything about coefficients. And so it's all math. I was not a scholar growing up, so it was a huge tall order for me to ask. But I was successful and made it. 2019, January 2nd, 2019, I got a call that my sniper partner killed himself. And it crushed me. His name was David R. Metcalf. And he was not only just a fantastic Navy SEAL and sniper, but he was our mentor. And I always say, if you can think about that mentor in your life that you know is just absolutely bulletproof, that's not going anywhere, that you can always confide in, you know that they're always there, and then they're not. And it dropped me to my knees. And I was always raised to serve people. In the military, it focused more on serving people. And when I got out, I would eventually, and pretty quickly after getting out of the service, going back to serving people. And I said, I'm so tired of losing my teammates to suicide. And I'm not smart, but I know how to form teams. And we're going to figure this out. I don't care how long it takes. The idea is I wanted to take a different approach. Instead of just studying the brain, which obviously a lot of it goes through, I wanted to study physiology. Because we don't eat well, we don't sleep well, we do not correctly exercise, we supplement with additives and fillers and garbage, and you have a fight or flight response that is out of this world for 20 years, and you get out and you wonder why you have a problem. So everything is related in our body. So if we can look at your physiology and help you get back to homeostasis for what your body needs, maybe we can help your brain cope.
Would eating 5 chocolate chip cookies be that a good thing or bad thing?
Well, the project's over with now, so it's all good. But ultimately, no, my sugar high is a problem. For me, this was called the Human Performance Project. And I actually stepped down from my company and started this because I believe in this specific thing so much. I have lost 28 teammates since the beginning of the war.
Too many.
Of which a third of them to suicide. And it's got to end. So this was my part to say, could we develop a manual that a kid could pick up all the way up to a struggling veteran and say, I can take my life back into my own hands because this is simplified and it has all the recipe inside of it. And that's what we did.
So that was January. Did you start that year? Was that you said January 2nd of 2019? Is that the
creating the concept? Yes. So January 2nd, 2019, started coming up with the idea. I spent a few months trying to figure out, just make sense of what had just happened. He was an awesome dude. I can't say enough about David. But yeah, figuring out what is the approach here, because now you're dealing with, when you deal with suicide, you have to deal with families. You have to be very, very, you have to be very cautious about how you act and what you do. Because if you don't pull anything off, you don't come up with anything, sure, you tried, but that's not a good result. We need facts, we need things, we need assets, we need help, tangible stuff. So it took me a while to figure out how we could make this a tangible thing that could help people. And then we kicked it off, and I stepped down from my company, and we went full on, and it's been a crazy ride.
Talk a little bit about what that looked like. You kicked it off, you left your company. What all were you working on? Talk about that.
Start with any project you need funding. So how do I bring funding into something like this? Do I go after corporations? Well, it was on this kind of downturn because I didn't really start bringing in funding till 2020, 2021, end of 21, beginning of 22. So it was tough. It was really tough to ask for money. And so I'm like, how am I going to do this correctly? And I was like, oh, wait a minute. The idea I'd already created was, can we do a physical regiment where we create a team of test subjects that are all special operations and pro athletes that I know have the mental drive to get what I'm about to make them go through done. And I was going to be one of them because you don't ever tell somebody to do something that you cannot do unless it's something that's completely out of their purview. Like somebody wants to tell me to wear a dress. Well, I won't even talk about it because I will. So anyway. So, shut up.
Only question. I didn't remember you calling me about that. Was there, my phone was busy or something?
Oh, right. So the funding piece, I knew that in order for any project to be successful, you got to get buzz around it, especially when this is, a philanthropic helping thing. So I'm like, what if we were to, instead of doing this test just regionally or locally, what if we were to take it globally? Because then when we could talk to different troops, different first responders, different people in different countries and make this truly a global project, bring them in on what we're doing. Why not hit all 7 continents? Let's do that. And let's do a skydiver base jump, followed by a full marathon, followed by a swim on all 7 continents in 7 days. And that became the test subjects agenda. So then we started bringing in all these unbelievable professionals, the pros, the coaches, the dietitians, the PTs, like anything we could pull, psychiatrists, psychologists, neuroscientists, to look at what we were doing or help us through the journey. And yeah, it was crazy. I mean, I remember doing a test week where we had to run a half marathon every day in under 2 hours, which was awesome. And the last day I tripped on some broken piece in the road about halfway through my half marathon. And I scraped my hands pretty bad and I was pretty pissed off about it. So I just started running harder because, that's what we do. Ego is no part of my life. And I didn't know that at the end of it, I fractured my leg.
Oh my God.
So it was like, oh, this is cool. But I still ran it anyway. And I still continued to run because it was all about David. And so if you have a mission, whatever you do in life, it's about, whatever you're doing, your job, charity, anything, if you truly believe in the mission, that's your purpose for being there, you're going to crush it. And if you don't have any purpose within what you're doing, then you're never going to be happy. And this project crushed me. It took a lot out of me, but the purpose was there, so that superseded anything that was hard. 7 continents, 7 days, 7 jumps, 7 swims, 7 runs, full marathons. And that was to break down the anatomy, the physiology, limited sleep on planes, can't possibly fuel enough, can't hydrate enough, just throwing stuff down your throat, and you're going to do it in a different demographic with a different atmosphere, different temperatures, all the different barometric pressure, all that stuff. And so it tested you on every level, and you fracture these key people, and then you spend the next 6 months rebooting them to homeostasis, taking that information and then putting it into a manual, focusing on mental, spiritual, emotional, physical, and social.
So knowing how difficult this sounds, for most people, for Michael, I'm sure it's fine, but what was harder, the actual building out and finding the funding or the physical endurance that you had to put your body through every single day, basically, to get you there?
So it's interesting. You asked me this 25 years ago, I probably said the physical side, but now I'd say the funding. Being a SEAL and having to go through Hell Week and go to war, you kind of just do everything that you need to do these days. Like, you don't cry about it or whine, you just go get it done. Yeah, it may hurt and it's going to suck, but there's an end state to everything, right? Like, a marathon has an end point. Everything has a shelf life. And I just learned this from my wife the other day, that there's seasons of life, which is so cool. So for me, the funding was the hardest because it's interesting. there are so many people that are genuine who want to help, truly help. But the only way to put this project together, it was a multi-million-dollar project, was to have to raise big bucks. And it was a bigger raise than I've ever raised before, especially in a condensed period of time. So the price tag was steep for people to go. But that's how I started to do this, was saying, I'm going to put a price tag together for a person to actually join us on the trip, where they could actually watch us do this, but then go have a cool excursion on each continent, where they don't have to run the full marathon. They had to do a mile. You know, like, we made them do some stuff just because it's about human performance, but then they got to go do the cool stuff. And then we'd meet up back at the plane and like, man, I go to dune buggies in the dunes, and it's like another marathon. Cool. Oh yeah, we went to London and we base jumped, and then we did another marathon. Okay. So that was that. And we started selling seats and everything was great. And then it just got really hard because there's only so many people that can afford a high ticket item like that. So you really got to work overtime, and you got to spend every bit of your intellectual capital trying to figure out how to get there.
Talk about that first event. Where was it? What was it like? You know, did you have crowds out there? Did anyone know what you were up to?
So we had groups, people that would come in each continent. Obviously, there is only one group in Antarctica. They're right there, so you're getting them whether you want them or not.
Is this besides the penguins?
The penguins were 200 miles away, so we couldn't
okay.
see them. Yeah, everybody wanted to take one back with them, but they're like, apparently emperor penguins get huge, so and very protected. So we started off, it was going to be an initial leg. We fly from all our prospective places. Now, our team was global, so our team came from all different continents. So we met up in Africa, in Cape Town, South Africa, and then our first leg was to start in Antarctica, because that is the most temperamental weather. So if we're going to finish everything else off, it's fine. We can run in heat, rain, whatever, but Antarctica could weather you out from even getting in or off. And so if it screws the timetable up, so you get into Antarctica, go bang it out, and then we move to the next one. We lost Antarctica on the first trip right away. There was constraints that put us back from actually going into the continent. So we're like, okay, now it's like military mindset. How do we deviate and make this work? Because we still have a 7X agenda. Do the marathon here in South Africa, Cape Town. So we actually did 7 continents. We just didn't do all 7 continents on the first go around. We hit 6 of the 7 continents, but we went Cape Town Marathon, Perth, Australia, Dubai, let's see, from Dubai we went to Egypt, up to London, down to Cartagena, Colombia, and then to Dallas, Texas. So we did all 6 continents, 7 marathons. The 6, we got 6 jumps. We didn't get a jump in Perth. And again, it didn't even matter. Like, the jumps were just part of like the minutia of what the military does. Regardless if it happened or not, we didn't care. Like, there's no records here. And there is a group that does a marathon on every continent every year. Some group that does it. They're crazy. So we accomplished that mission. But I had promised everybody that we were going to Antarctica. And you always keep a promise. Your word's what you got. And no matter what, you got to figure it out. So I think it was 5 days shy of a year from the date we went on the first trip. We took everybody out to Antarctica to finish that last one strong. So pretty awesome.
That is awesome.
That's amazing. Well, talk a little bit. What did you learn about yourself during this journey?
Nothing. I'm awesome. No. Everybody. You learn stuff from yourself every day if you look for it. Really, I learned for me, I'm a guy who likes to overextend myself to help because people need help. People need help. During COVID, I continually said to people like, hey, yes, we run a charity and, we're definitely going to see some change here, but we couldn't forget about the injuries and the ailments and the diseases that people were dealing with because COVID was such a prominent thing. And so we just stayed focused. And learning on this trip that I massively overextended myself because this was such a megalodon of a project that I need to reel it in a bit and maybe slow down a little bit in life because this took so much out of me that I was not good for anybody. I couldn't help really if I tried. And that's the problem with people who want to help people. You have to be right with yourself first before you can help others. And if you overextend yourself, which most servants do, by the time you're ready to help yourself, you've got nothing left. So there's this nice balancing act that I'm starting to really learn now of help somebody, focus on myself, help somebody, focus on myself to keep that nice wave instead of just this. So that was a big one. I also learned that I like the world. It's pretty cool. Never knew what different places would bring, and just such unique cultures, and everybody was so happy. Like in Egypt, all the Egyptians came to run with us. Their military came to run with us. They had former military and paratroopers come to run with us. It was just the coolest thing. They had our American flag banners everywhere around the pyramids. I'm like, and by the way, seeing the pyramids is nuts. I mean, they're real aliens, I tell you. There are aliens for sure. Seeing those things was just like, I cannot believe it. I faced by my dad, and he sees it, and he's like, you can do that on your backdrop on like Skype or Zoom or something. I'm like, yeah, but I'm here. These are real. And he's like, nuts. So everything's got something to offer. But I guess what the biggest thing I learned is it doesn't matter what you do. It really doesn't matter where you are. It just matters who you're with. Who you surround yourself with is what matters the most. Because the trip to me was great to get it going, but I was so tired by the time we got to the trip that it didn't matter to see the world for me. But the people around me, because I specifically hand-selected these people based off of, number one, their attitude. Like you can have there's subject matter experts all around the world for everything. So I can pull from that. But if you don't have a good attitude, I can't fix that. I'm not even gonna try. But you got a great attitude, we got it. So I hand-selected every person. I even hand-selected every investor, every person who went with us. I had to turn down a few people, $100,000 price tag per seat. And I had to say no to a few people because they're boneheads. And I don't want that juice in our squeeze or whatever that term is, whatever.
Well, he just explained why Brad didn't get the call.
Oh.
Let me show you the email right here. You're not invited. No. So it was, the people made everything worthwhile. And what happened that I knew would happen because I hand-selected the people, it became a tribe. But I did not realize how tight this tribe would be. Because when you are forced into an environment, which anybody in here who's served in any kind of military or first responder, when you're in a tribe and you're forced into adversity with the team, you bond. And it's tight. It is so tight. And that's exactly what these people that had never done this kind of stuff before were having to get off a 20-hour flight and immediately lug all their luggage to a point where they got on a bus and they drove out to the desert where they got into dune buggies and they get to change or shower, wash their teeth or whatever, and then they're going to this next place and then they get back to and showering at the airport in this terrible shower, jumping back on the plane, and they're just whooped day after day. And that builds the camaraderie. That's really the sauce. And so if you can figure out a way to not just, crush your employees, your people every day, because I heard you do a lot of that.
Yeah. Especially this guy.
Yeah. You figure out how to make it a tribe and just immerse some of that or infuse some of that in there, you got yourself a team for life.
So reflecting now, going back to Buds and now with the Human Performance Project behind you, which one was harder, Buds Hell Week or the putting together the Human Performance Project?
Putting together on the business side?
You get to choose.
Physically, Buds. Physically, it would be SEAL training. No question. Because remember I said everything has a time, like a start and a finish, but Buds is a lot longer. So, yeah. Academically and mentally, I would definitely say 7X, the Human Performance Project. Just because in the back of my mind, the firepower from what I was driving to do and crush every day was my teammate, who was no longer here. So it was not only a blessing to serve him, but it was also a constant reminder that he wasn't here anymore. And that I had to fight with a lot. Because again, I always say this, you lose a brother or sister, it's something that nobody teaches you how to deal with. And there's no regiment on how to deal with it. You have to deal with it in your own way as your person, the way you are. But we're all human. There's people put us in this pedestal where Navy SEALs are this special thing, and at the end of the day, I'm like, really? If I get stabbed, what happens to me? I bleed, same as you. Like, we're all the same. I just wanted to be a SEAL, so I went after it. And I'm sure there could be a lot more SEALs if more people wanted to do it, but they just don't have the interest to do it. But we're all the same, and we all react the same, and at the end of the day, no matter if we're warriors or not, we cry and we lose ourselves when we lose a friend. And so that's something that I've learned now into not dragging it as baggage, but to walk alongside it. So
it's been amazing. Well, what we're going to do next, Birdman, is we'll take a break for a commercial, and on the other side, we'll field some questions from the audience.
Great. Send it.
Many business owners use legal counsel as a last resort rather than as a proactive tool that can further their success. Why? For most, it's the fear of unknown legal costs. ByrdAdatto's Access Plus program makes it possible for you to get the ongoing legal assistance you need for one predictable monthly fee. That gives you unlimited phone and email access to the legal team, so you can receive feedback on legal concerns as they arise. Access Plus, a smarter, simpler way to access legal services. Find out more. Visit ByrdAdatto.com today.
All right, for those who have questions, the monkey with the mic is back there. So we will cut into your question, and then hopefully Birdman will answer it. So any questions for Birdman? Up in the back. We got James joining us, everybody.
Awesome story. Fantastic stuff. I'm curious, the results that you kind of saw, would you do it again to see how they compared, or what's kind of the next step in kind of this iteration of it?
Sure. Great questions. So if I had somebody say, here's the funding, I'd do it all day long. If I had to go back down the same path, I will never do it again. It's a heck of a thing to carry.
Why don't you tell them about what you're hoping happens with the funding that we were talking about?
That's right. So the idea behind this is we're creating a manual and a documentary. So everybody will see the whole thing unfold before their own eyes. And so we'll get some kind of a deal, distribution deal for the documentary. We have enough content to possibly make a mini-series though, so that would be cool too. I don't really care, we're gonna use this footage as the marketing material for the manual. And the manual, 100% of the net proceeds of both these assets go to 20 causes, of which 2 are in the UK, all veteran and first responder, and they're vetted. And that's for life in perpetuity. So it's pretty cool there. But the hope is that this manual will help people understand that there's a way to pick it back up. Because the thing that I've said, because I've been at a very low point in my life at times, very dark. And what I've realized, I don't have the suicidal ideations, but I also don't know how dark I was. Like, I don't know where I was if there was a scale. But what if I was at my darkest hour only at 50% of where I could go? And if that were the case, wow, I'm not that bad. And that's what we have to really start instilling in people that are dark is, you don't know where you're at. You're just dark. But I've been there, now I got you. Let's go. So it's pretty awesome. And that's what I'm hoping this manual does, is it shows people, you're only here, let's get moving. One simple step today. I will not share his name until he goes public about it, but I'm sure he will. I got a dear friend who was not doing well. Not doing well at all. When I say not doing well, he was at the end of his road. And I called him and I said, I want you to be a part of this project. And he was like, man, yeah, I'd love to. He goes, it's crazy. I'm going to a funeral tomorrow for a suicide. I'm like, wow. He was not a military guy. And 2 weeks later, he says, man, I'm sitting here and I should be the happiest in my life because he's got a sane life. And he's like, I don't want to live anymore, kind of. I'm like, jeez. That was through a text. I called him and I was like, here, dude, I just need you to go for me right now. Get up off your ass and walk him or run a mile. That's all I need you to do right now. Just do that and then call me back. And he did. Of course, he's competitive, so I think he did like 1.3, but he calls it kilometers. Anyway, he gets done. He takes me pictures, smiling, and then he calls me. He's like, I feel good. I was like, why do you feel good? Because I did it. I was like, really? That's what it is? And he's like, well, what is it? I was like, I don't know. Maybe it is that you completed something. Maybe it is that you moved. Maybe it's that you have a friend who cares about you. Maybe it's a combination, all that. I don't know. But what I wanted you to do is show you still got it. Now we're going to do that again tomorrow. We're going to keep doing that until you forgot about the pain that you just had. Because this is just like an addict. There's a point when an addict is so sober that they will never go back to that place. That's what we got to do with this post-traumatic stress and this traumatic brain injury stuff. And he ran 2 marathons during this event, and he's never run a half marathon in his life. He is fit as all get out now. He's better than me, and he is the happiest he said he's ever been in his life. So if we can do that just through the project, what if we take that information and put it in a manual imagine how many people we can help. So hopefully that answers your question in a very long and drawn out way. But I know lawyers like the whole thing of like.
I'm not like that.
He's one of the non-lawyers.
Yeah, non-lawyer. He snuck in here.
Very good.
Security. Other questions for Birdman?
I'll make my answers shorter.
Oh, we got one up here. We got a Marine now. Oh no.
It'll be a simple question since I'm a Marine. Okay, so 10 years ago there was a ton of, you mentioned it earlier, there was just tons of people that were trying to start nonprofits and be supportive. And I'm just curious, kind of, do you see as we're moving past kind of, people that were heavily involved and it's moving out of the public consciousness, Iraq and Afghanistan. So do you see less people interested? Is that a good thing that there's not so many new nonprofits starting? Just curious kind of what you see in the public, realm and, what do you see as far as people being involved and interest?
Check. So I see a couple things. I see that we have charity saturation.
Yeah.
There's too many causes, there's too many duplications, and everybody's asking the same pools, and so there's donor fatigue.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter where the economy is. People are getting hammered. When I started getting emails from causes saying, hey, you want to support? I'm like, I run a charity, which means I'm not rich, okay? Really? It's interesting. So it just creeps up on everybody. So I don't think that it's lost in the American public. I think it's great that the wars have died off where, I don't even think they consider them wars still. They're like cold conflicts or something, which is crazy. But that's great. The charities that are really doing the work are sustaining and will help people. But I truly do believe that they got to work together. And there's this idea that these organizations can help their patients on their own in silo. There are great organizations that do work with other charities. But there's a lot of them that just stay siloed, I want to do my thing, and I don't like that. So, if you're going to create something that's a cause, it better be different from everything else, completely different. Or do not create one, just start helping a charity that does it already and make them better. That's the simplest way. I don't know, we'll see come election time what happens with the economy and charities, so that'll be interesting. So I hope, economically right now it's not the greatest for fundraising, but hopefully we'll see it change.
We have time for one more question if we have one. If not, for those listening to us on our YouTube or listening to us on the podcast, we will have links to both of Birdman's nonprofits and to 7X if you want to learn more about it. But Michael, I think it's time to say goodbye to the other Birdman.
The real Birdman. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely.
And just give a round of applause for Birdman.
Well, audience members, we have one more show next Wednesday. We're actually going to bring on series regular Jerry Arrow, who will help bridge the building and the operational season. So thanks again for joining us.
Thanks again for joining us today. And remember, if you like this episode, please subscribe. Make sure to give us a 5-star rating and share with your friends.
You can also sign up for the ByrdAdatto newsletter by going to our website at ByrdAdatto.com.
ByrdAdatto is providing this podcast as a public service. This podcast is for educational purposes only. This podcast does not constitute legal advice, nor does it establish an attorney-client relationship. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by ByrdAdatto. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. Please consult with an attorney on your legal issues.